Hello, friends, and welcome back to Elaborations with Skellington Grin. If you are new here, hi, my name is Ava, and I am a multifaceted content creator, tarot reader, and your gothic witch big sis in the spiritual corner of the internet. Here on EWSG, we unveil the truth while burning our favorite fall-scented candles because we are, of course, in the midst of my favorite season. We are sipping on our favorite tea or coffee or whatever else gets us through the day. And we absolutely do not sugarcoat anything on this podcast. But you might hear a little bit of humor every now and again. And if you've been here before, welcome back because as always, I am so glad that you have returned to sit with me again. I want to remind everyone here, though, that this podcast isn't always going to be about perfection or polished advice. It is instead going to be a place where we can be human together. We're pulling apart the tangles of life and weaving them back into something stronger. Kind of like taking apart an old blanket and turning it into a new quilt. And yes, I'm going to be using a lot of cozy language because it's cozy time. Fall is cozy time for me. The first time that I recorded this episode, however, I recorded it about 2 weeks ago. And I was speaking from a place of learning things in real time. But today I'm coming back revamped, refreshed, and talking about this in a more well-rounded way. Today we're going to be talking about conflicts in relationships and the idea that when handled in a healthy way, conflict can actually be a portal of growth. Since the first time that I tried to record this episode, a lot of life has happened. Stressors, changes, and moments where communication didn't land the way that it was intended have happened in my personal life. And what I've learned is this. Conflict isn't always the dramatic blow-up kind. Sometimes conflict can be something small, like the difference between reassurance and understanding when you're communicating with someone. Sometimes conflict is navigating the stress of a job change, a recovery, or a routine that has been turned upside down and needs a revamp. Conflict can be a bump in the road, but it can also show you where your relationships need restructuring, regrowth, and a little bit more patience. And today, that is what we will be unpacking together. And while we may be talking about it in the context of romantic relationships for the most part of this conversation, we can apply these principles to our platonic relationships and familial relationships as well. But before we truly dive in, I need to add a quick but important disclaimer. What I am talking about here is healthy conflict, those misunderstandings, stressors, and habits that can be worked through with consistent effort, communication, and intentional care. However, if you find yourself in a truly unhealthy relationship, one that threatens your well-being or your safety, please do not take this episode as a sign that healthy conflict alone can save it, because 9 times out of 10, that is not the case. If you feel truly unsafe, I highly encourage you to lean on your support systems. Reach out to trusted friends, family members, local resources, and professional resources, because you deserve to feel safe in your own life. My heart goes out to you, I see you, and I want you to know that you are loved, supported, and worthy of peace. With all of that taken care of, let's dive into today's discussion. So when we think of conflict, most of us tend to picture big fights, the loud ones, the stormy ones, the ones where doors are slammed. But more often than not, conflict shows up in small and almost invisible ways as well. For example, maybe you default to saying, it's okay to smooth things over when you're in the middle of a conversation. But to your partner, those words land like reassurance when what they really needed was understanding. They don't want you to tell them that everything is fine. They want to hear that you understand them. They want you to tell them, I hear you. I get what you are saying, and I understand where you are coming from. Even if I don't understand exactly what you're going through, I am working to understand you and your perspectives. That small difference is everything, because it can be the difference between your partner feeling dismissed and placated to your partner feeling truly seen and valued by you. And these micro conflicts don't have to unravel your connection, but they can be invitations and little moments to pause and say, okay, how do we want this to go differently moving forward? But then there are the conflicts that are born out of change. Stressful seasons like job transitions, moves, financial strains can stir up so much tension. Even joyful changes like planning for the future can come with stress that spills into a relationship. In my own life, I have seen how easy it is for stress to mask itself as conflict. And what happens is that you're not really angry at each other. You're simply overwhelmed by what is happening outside of the relationship, whether it's happening just to one person in the relationship or it's happening to the both of you. But when we don't name these things, our reactions to them and the way that we treat others in our lives can come out so sideways. And suddenly it's not about the budget or the schedule or anything that needs to be looked at through a different perspective. It's not about the external stress anymore. It is about the hurt tone in someone's voice or the way one of you shuts down. And this is where conflict becomes that portal. Because when we choose to stop and ask, what is the real source of the tension and what is the need underneath the frustration, we allow ourselves to invite new perspectives into play, and we allow ourselves to be more open with each other. We go from shutting down to actually working through our problems together as a team. And it can be very challenging, but it can also be very rewarding. And sometimes conflict can mean that we might put something on hold. Sometimes conflict allows us to communicate expectations differently. And sometimes it simply just means being a little extra gentle with each other while the storm passes. And when it comes to restructuring love, here is what I have learned. Conflict is that pressure test that shows you where the foundation of your relationship needs reinforcement. It's not always going to be about who wins or who is right. In fact, conflict is about asking what needs restructuring so that we can move forward stronger. That might mean creating a new communication habit. It might mean setting boundaries around stress. It might even mean deciding together how to navigate outside challenges. And sometimes it might even mean giving each other space to just exist. But every repair and every restructure makes the relationship more resilient. And that is how love grows. Not in the absence of conflict, but in the way you handle it. So here is the truth that I want you to carry through today and into the rest of the week. Conflict isn't always destruction. In healthy partnerships and friendships and relationships, it can be a blueprint, a map that is showing you where to grow, how to shift, and what needs tending. And before I let you go, I want to leave you with a journal prompt. So go ahead and open up your journal, grab your pen, and write this down. Where in your relationships do you find yourself defaulting to reassurance when understanding might be what's really needed? How could you shift that habit into deeper communication? And where in your relationships do you find yourself defaulting to conflict due to stress? And what can you do to encourage better stress management together and apart? As always, if you would like to connect with me, all of my links to my Instagram and all things Skellington Grin are in the description box and show notes. You can find everything through my link tree. I'm also going to be putting some links in the description to where you can find those helpful resources if you truly are in an unhealthy circumstance. I would also love to hear your reflections on this episode because my DMs on Instagram are always open. I usually take about 2 hours a day to go through those DMs and chat with people. But I would also love to know, what are some topics that you would love me to explore on this podcast? Because your suggestions always spark the best magic. And as always, thank you for being with me today. And until next time, remember, healthy love isn't about never having conflict. It's about learning how to grow through it again and again. This has been another enlightening episode of Elaborations with Skellington Grin, and I will see you next time. Bye!